Welcome back into No Pulp. Noah Cierzan here, joined across the studio by Will Scott, who is now alongside this week's guest on the Juicer, Tyler Melito. Tyler, thanks for coming in to talk some hoops.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. Last day of the basketball season. It's nice.
Plenty to discuss, Tyler. Looking forward to getting into it.
It's definitely a funny, or an exciting one, rather. And like I said, now that the tournament is over, we're going to give out some awards, but we're going to do it Juicer style. So just a quick refresher. You both get 30 seconds to pitch me your answer to various questions, and I'll choose a winner. And today we're talking about the most outstanding player in each region, starting off with the West region, Gonzaga's region. So, Will, who you got in this one?
How can I not pick a Gonzaga player? They ran through this region. I'm going to go with Drew Timme. He averaged 20 points per game in this tournament. It was absolutely phenomenal. Just dropped 10 points in round one. Then he had 30 against Oklahoma, 22 against Creighton, 23 against USC, and shot 64% from the field in those 3 games. He was hands down the MVP in the West region and had by far the best stash in the entire region.
I mean, you're not wrong. From a facial hair standpoint, phenomenal. Phenomenal Drew Timme was. But I'm going to go with someone who probably didn't have as much expectations in his teammate, Jalen Suggs. Suggs, as a freshman, just balled out. He had 22 in that national championship game. And the stats are not great. 14.5 points, 4.6 rebounds, 4.6 assists, 1.6 steals, 47 from the field. But as a freshman, he was a Swiss Army knife. We saw it in the national championship game against Baylor. When he picked up those 2 fouls, they desperately missed him. And that ultimately cost the Bulldogs, in my opinion. That shot is what everyone will remember. But overall, Jalen Suggs, I have to go with him.
Yeah, this one is kind of, it's not tough at all. Who am I kidding? I'm going with the Minnesota guy, Jalen Suggs. Loved how he played.
That's conflict of interest.
Nope,
Minnesota.
Hey, you know who your host is. You go for that.
Hey, I make the rules, so no conflict of interest. Tyler gets the point there. And while the West region was relatively smooth sailing for the Zags, the East region was far from it and had surprise team of the tournament in UCLA. So going to you the first this time, Tyler, who's your most outstanding player in the East?
Well, no, you mentioned UCLA, and this is obvious. Johnny Juzang. How could you not? Just phenomenal top level. Carried that UCLA team to the Final Four. Transferred from Kentucky. It's pretty easy to say he made the right decision. 23 points per game, 4 rebounds, 50.9% from the field, 37.5 from 3. And the fact that UCLA was just seconds away and 1 shot from making it to double overtime. I think if that game went to double overtime against Gonzaga, Johnny Juzang would have carried that team to a national title game.
And you would have hit your beat the bookie parlay as well.
Yes, I would have.
I know that he didn't put up the monster numbers that Juzang put up, but I got to go with Michigan's Hunter Dickinson.
Respectable.
He was absolutely phenomenal in this tournament. And if you watched every Michigan tournament game, which I did because they beat a lot of teams that I bet on for Beat the Bookie, you look at what he did defensively. He was phenomenal defensively. Nobody could get rebounds off this guy. Then offensively, he was putting up a lot of points. He had 12 points, 11 rebounds against LSU, 14 points, 8 rebounds against Florida State. He was the MVP in this tournament for Michigan and my MVP in this region.
So we're actually going to make history here on the Juicer. For the first time ever, someone has won the first 2 questions. This one's going to Tyler and Johnny Juzang. That UCLA team, they were spectacular, made the run, and he put up almost 23 points a game, literally carried them to almost a national championship. We're moving over to the South region now, who had, of course, the national champions in Baylor, along with some of the best early upsets this year. So looking at the South region, who is your most outstanding player, Will?
Well, my most outstanding player out of this region was the MVP of the entire tournament, Jared Butler. He was phenomenal from the jump for Baylor, averaged 16 points, 5 assists in this tournament, had 9 assists in the first round against Hartford. He's an unselfish basketball player, the ultimate team guy. And when he got hot, good luck. And we saw that last night. He was heating up early against Gonzaga, led Baylor to the national championship. How can the MVP of the tournament not be the MVP in the South region?
Simple. Because you expected Jared Butler and Baylor to do that. I'm going to go with someone on the opposite side. Someone whose team was not expected to go far. Max A. Smith from Oral Roberts, the nation's leading scorer entering the NCAA tournament. Let's just say he was a walking bucket in the NCAA tournament in Oral Roberts' 3 games. 29 in the massive upset against Ohio State. 26 against Florida. 25 against the Razorbacks in Arkansas. And yes, he missed the shot that would have possibly sent Oral Roberts to the Elite Eight to take on Baylor.
Almost went in.
Almost went in. That's like, who knows what we'd be talking about if Oral Roberts made it to the Elite Eight. Max Abmas captured the hearts of America, and that's why he's the most outstanding player for me from that region, because you didn't expect it.
Paul Mills, former coach at Fort Bend Christian Academy, by the way, my alma mater.
I think it actually would have been a lot of fun if Abe Smith would have made that shot and we got to see these two guys play, but we don't, so I'm making the decision. Jared Butler, like Will said, player of the tournament, and he's so silky smooth. He's got the handles and crossed Drew Timmy up, play in, play out. Looked great all tournament. Finally, though, we have the Midwest region, dubbed the region of orange by many, but Houston represented the region in the Final Four. So for the deciding points, this one is worth 2 points, of course. Who do you have as your most outstanding Midwest region player, Tyler?
This, by far, for me, was the toughest one. You could have gone Buddy Boeheim, Cade Cunningham, and Io DeSumo really did not perform. I didn't want to go for someone from Houston, so I went with Loyola Chicago, and maybe the lovable guy, Cameron Krutwig, for Loyola Chicago and the Ramblers. He was just consistent throughout the entirety of the tournament. 14.3 points per game, 9 rebounds, 52.8% shooting. And he was the go-to guy. So when you're the go-to guy, it's pretty easy to go with him. Cameron Krutwig, I just think, from a consistency standpoint, was the most outstanding player for me.
Well, you didn't want to go with Houston guy, but news for you. The Cougs made the Final Four. So I gotta go with Quentin Grimes as my most outstanding player in this region. He was a three-point machine. 4 threes against Cleveland State, 5 against Rutgers, 4 against Syracuse, 4 against Oregon State, averaged 18 points per game on their Final Four run, and led the Cougs to their first Final Four since Phi Slamma Jamma in 1984. What a run it was for Houston, and it was all engineered by that man, Quentin Grimes.
America, notice how the homer, the guy from Houston, went with someone from Houston.
None of that. No, this is a neutral court, and if we were talking facial hair, I'd go Krutwig, but I gotta go to Quentin Grimes. Player of the tournament, absolutely lights out from 3. Will wins that one. And, it's always a fun time on the juicer, especially when you have 2 pseudo-Texans bringing the energy like these two do. But unfortunately, we have to say bye to Tyler. And coming